Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. How are we getting on? Welcome back to a brand new camp build, and today we're jumping onto my archer character to create a treehouse. It's going to be kind of a new base of operations and home for this particular character. So I'm pretty happy with how this has come out, deep in the depths of the forest. So let's jump in and take a look at the build, shall we? Okay then, so whilst we're chilling out here in the finished product, let's have a look at where we are on the map. So we're pretty central in the most forested region of the forest. We're just here by the road, not too far from Grafton. Just north of Vault 76 there, there's Anchor Farm. Yeah, just by the road, a little south of the ice cream shop, and pretty much in the most densely wooded area of the forest. So, just off the road, you see in the back there, we've got a couple of trees quite nicely positioned close together that are pretty solid for building around. And I've already got one of the foundations in place. So to do this, I had to line those up with a sort of a row of three of them, kind of indicated there, and get it positioned so they basically ran the entire span of the trees. I took the side ones off and lowered the central one, which is why I can no longer snap any onto the sides. That gets us in a decent position so we can sort of work around both trees. You need to make sure you're going to line up to the point where you can actually path the floors around them. So a little bit of trial and error and practice to get them lined up properly, but not too bad to do, really. And then we get the stairs on and start putting the floors in. So most of this build is actually pretty easy. It took a little bit of running through to figure out exactly how to do it, but once you've got those foundations lined up, everything should run nicely around the trees. If you want to put walls on the thing, it's worth bearing in mind you need to have the floor come out at the equivalent of the full-size floor pieces. So if you're using the half-size ones, you need to add up to 2 of them. But with one exception, we're not going to be doing that, so it won't be too much of a problem, but it's good to bear in mind. Obviously, getting it to sit really close to the tree is a bit of a problem. If there's basically any clipping at all, the floors won't snap through, so depending on how much patience you've got, you can get it sitting a little closer, but it's a little bit of leeway is going to have to be left just to get around the trees with the collision issues that the system, building system rather, in 76 does have. You see, there's no way that's going in. The question is whether or not I can get a thinner one in, because sometimes these will work but the larger ones won't. The answer is no, not on this occasion. So we're going to have a bit of a larger gap around. Some of these places we'll be able to plug some of those gaps up, but some we won't, unfortunately. So sort of getting an eye here for where I want the staircase to go. This double floor, full-size floor is a bit too big, so we use 2 half-size ones. We'll get that back in where we need it. And I can have the staircase starting a little bit further back. It should line up a little better with the floor below and the tree up here. So I've already had a bit of a play around with this, so clearly forgot to take that post out. But nevertheless, we shall push on. And here, apparently it was willing to snap quite close to the tree, which is really what I wanted. In a few places it was a bit awkward, so you have to make do. Oop, missed another post. But on the whole, it's worked out okay. I've managed to build a number of platforms around each tree, which is quite good. Well, 2 around each tree. I'll get this set up to go up one more level in a moment. Obviously, I'm having a bit of issues getting this to snap closely to the tree, but this is an example where the smallest floor pieces here were quite happy to go in the gap where larger ones weren't. There we go. Bit of a strange phenomenon, that. It's a bit inconsistent, but on the other hand, it's plugged up what would otherwise be a massive hole, so I'm quite happy that's worked out. There's a couple of spots where you really can fall down between them, but once you get railings and furniture in, it's not too much of an issue. So we'll get this last staircase in, and run up to the top. So for this last one, I'm going to go a little bit bigger, because for most of the camp, we're not going to have walls or roofs on it. We're just going to have it sort of open to the elements. But this is a post-apocalyptic wasteland, and you do want somewhere to take some shelter from the inclement weather, so we'll have to bear that in mind. So I'm going to put one small sort of house structure up here. We'll get to that in just a moment. There's 2 reasons why I wouldn't want to go any higher than I'm currently at here. First one being, obviously, these branches are kind of annoying. It's a bit unfortunate they're right in the way, but kind of inevitable. It's one of the reasons I chose these 2 trees specifically, because the branches weren't getting in the way for the most part. Obviously this level's a bit of an exception. The other reason is, with the camp unit being placed on the floor, I actually placed it right in between the 2 trees on ground level. This is about as high as you can get. There's a couple of points where it actually starts to suggest that you're outside the build area because you're too high, but for the most part we're okay on this. See if we can get this one in. I don't think we can. No. But we now have all the floors in place, so I'm going to just have a quick run around and see if there is anywhere I can snap some extra small floor pieces in, these ones specifically, just to make sure we plug up what gaps we can. I think for the most part we're not going to succeed, but I think there's one somewhere I did pull it off. There, that's the one. So, not particularly necessary, though I did end up using that one. It's getting a little dark, so we'll push on a bit. I think we can see okay for now. We've only got a little bit to do before I switch over. So this is where we're going to put the enclosed space, the house for want of a better word, up on the top level, just by the tree here, in the gap between the two. And because we've got very confined spaces, I'm going to have to go with a bit of an odd shape, which does make it more interesting, but going to make decoration minimal. I'm quite happy with how it comes out, as we'll see in the tour in a minute, but an interesting little space to shelter from the worst of the weather. See, the branches on the right there are preventing some roofs and walls going in, so I have to use a bit of an angle there. But there we go, a couple of half walls and a roof, and all of a sudden we've got a little 1x1 shelter. So, with the core structure in, we need to get a little bit of support on this. So, I actually have somewhat mixed feelings on this. What we're going to do is position some of these stair posts under the stair tab on the corners. So we're using that half floor just snapped at an offset there, just so that we can force them to snap on the corner. I think we've done quite a lot because for some weird reason these posts won't snap on the corners on their own. But the one issue I am having slightly with these posts is, without them, certain parts of the platforms look like they're not supported enough, which is kind of annoying. But with them, I'm not 100% sold on the look. It's a bit of a challenge. I might end up taking them off at some point and seeing how I feel, which I prefer. But useful tip when you're doing this, if you want the posts facing the same direction, so they're sort of consistent in their appearance, make sure you either put the floor piece you're using to force them onto the corners on either the sides or the front and back, and stay consistent to it like that. Then they'll all face the same way. Otherwise you'll have some facing one direction, some facing another, and it looks a little less tidy. Scrappy's all well and good, but there's a good kind of scrappy and a bad kind. So we've got a slight issue there that the top one's snapping the way I want it to, but the bottom one is snapping to the foundation that sadly I can't take off. So it's kind of, you see the two posts go in opposite directions, which is not ideal, but we can live with it. So, all the posts in place, or most of the posts in place. There's a couple more we need to get in there. I'm just going to go up from the one below there to support that corner. Same here. I don't have to faff around the floor there. And that makes these corners look a little less like they're magically floating, and more like they're actually supported. Yeah, one more there. Head up to the next level. So, for the most part, close to the stairs, I'm happy to leave things as they are, because I can basically, in my own head, convince myself that the stairs are providing some support as well. But this top corner here is a long way away from any support, so probably good to have something there. And we don't need anything on this level. So that, with the exception of this corner here, should be about enough support. I do want to keep it to a reasonable minimum, because otherwise it just looks a bit too much, a bit too cluttered, so I want to avoid that. There we go. We basically have our platforms in place with plenty of support, so they're not going to come tumbling down. And yeah, we've got a reasonable start there. So, next up, I'm going to jump inside and get some railings on here, which will basically bring us to the end of the structural part of the build. And it'll just be on to decoration, so relatively simple, this sort of build, which is cool. And I think it's come out quite well. The final looks pretty cool. One of the drawbacks we do have with using these half floors and sort of struggling to fit things around the trees is sometimes you'll have a problem getting certain railings in. These larger ones will go along the long edges, obviously, but they won't cross between multiple floors. So, hence why occasionally you have to use two of the small ones. And we are going to be left with the odd gap where it won't quite cooperate. If I'd planned a little further ahead, I might have been able to arrange it so that wasn't a problem, but I've already pulled this down twice already, so I'm not doing it a third time. If you do want to put walls in here and have doorways by the stairs, it's something you need to do as you move up the platforms, or before you put the stairs in, because it won't let you snap walls in, or doorways in rather, when there are already stairs in, so something to bear in mind. But, you've seen what I'm doing on one platform, that's quite enough. Let's have a look at the decorated product. So, railings all the way around now. Same principle as the first one. And we've got a much more complete looking place. I was quite pleased to find I could get that windmill underneath the platform there. It's a very tight squeeze, and I did actually have to take the floor out, which involved putting a second staircase in. But it didn't. I was able to take the floor out, put the turbine in, and then snap the floor back in over the top of it, which I was quite happy about. It kind of fits quite nicely in there. A little bit of decoration on the lower level. The previous camp I had on this character had a massive adhesive farm, which I don't really need one of quite that scale anymore, but so I've gone for a smaller scale one underneath the lower levels of the build here. So I've got everything I need. Keep me in food and adhesive should I need it, but for the most part it's much smaller scale. A few turrets down the bottom, just in case anything comes up and wants to bash my plants. Which, you get the odd scorch. There's actually a random encounter spawn point on the road just in front of the camp, which tends to be super mutants, ghouls and mole rats from my experience so far, but it's a good little spot. The vending in on the lowest level there, so any visitors don't have to run all the way up if they want to get the vending. A few bits and pieces around. Tough part here is to make sure you put enough to decorate the place, but still leave enough room to move around, which is challenging in some corners, but it came out alright. A few of the new bits and pieces that appeared in the atomic shop this week as well in here, which I'm quite happy about, some of those chairs. Moving on up a little bit, got our crafting area. Easily accessible in a hurry if you want to, and for any players who stop by for the vending. But not quite on ground level either. Tucked our weapons bench just around the corner there. These little bits around the corner and in between the trees can be a bit awkward to fit stuff in, but we did alright. A couple more of those new chairs there that have just arrived this week. One of the new stash boxes there from the new season armor race. Quite happy with those, I think they look really cool. Some of the new water collectors as well. This little leather couch. And there's our little cooking station. I really like that minecar cooking station. It's really, really nice, looks great. So, any opportunity to squeeze it in, we head up to the top layer, where we have the ammo converter up here because I couldn't find anywhere else to put it. And with these tree branches, finding something to do with this side was a bit awkward, but thought a little table there so you can enjoy the view would be a good one for that corner. And tucked a few bits and pieces up here just to kind of give it a bit of life. The new weight bench there, which is kind of unnecessary, but why not? It's blocking off a hole as well, and I definitely don't want to go falling down from the top level. Sheepsquatch hanging out outside, and this is our little bedroom shelter space. A tiny little 1x1 here. Squeezed one of the new hammocks in. That's in the new set that came into the atomic shop this week. Some cool stuff in there. Got a few bits of decoration in here. Need to pick up some more bobbleheads, but managed to cram stuff in. Just enough room to get in and move around the door, which is nice. Nice bit of shelter. So, yeah, very bare bones, but we managed to decorate it up a bit, so I'm quite happy with that. You can see the sun's starting to go down now rather. The lighting's looking alright. I didn't want to overdo the lighting on this, because I don't want it to be kind of shining like a beacon from miles away. I don't want that feeling, if you fast travel to it, that leaves you wondering where on earth in the forest you wound up, which is quite cool. My original plan was actually to build a bit further away from the road, but with one thing and another, this ended up being a better bet. But yeah, definitely into the depths of the forest here, which is cool. Really like how this has come out. Everything we need, plenty of character, nice place to hang out when the sun's setting as well. If you haven't seen it already, I put a cool picture up on Instagram of the character just hanging out. I'm really happy with how that picture came out, it's really nice. So, links down in the description to that one if you would like to check it out. Yeah, all in all, not overdone, but I'm quite happy with this one. Came out quite nicely. So, I do hope you folks found that interesting and useful. If you did, please do consider dropping subs and likes for me. It's always very, very much appreciated. Social media links, as I say, down in the description as well, along with the merch store if you're interested in that sort of thing. And channel memberships are available via the blue button as well if you're interested in supporting the channel that way. The support is massively appreciated, so thank you very much to everybody who's done that already. And if you guys get a chance, do keep an eye out for the live streams as well, playing Fallout and Horizon Zero Dawn, having a lot of fun. Got some other cool stuff coming up in the future as well, so I do hope you'll join us for those. For now, I will say thank you very much for watching, and I look forward to speaking to you all very, very soon.